Bibliophiles of the Internet. My name is Adriana, and today I'm here to review Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a high fantasy standalone novel that is very much inspired by Russian folklore, but it's definitely an original story within its own right. It's about a young girl named Agnieszka who lives in a small village that is at the mercy of this dark and sinister forest that surrounds it, and they call it the Wood. So in order to protect this village from the evils of the Wood and any potential invaders, there is a wizard who lives in a tower stationed very close to the village, and they know this wizard only as the Dragon. What happens with the Dragon is he will gladly offer up his services and his magic in order to protect the valley, but only in exchange for one girl every 10 years who will serve him until he's done with her, and then she'll go on her merry way. The thing is, no one actually knows what happens to those girls who serve the Dragon for 10 years. No one actually knows what happens when they're locked away in that tower, but no one wants to be chosen. And Agnieszka and pretty much all of the people in her village are convinced that her best friend Kasia is the one who's going to be taken this upcoming choosing ceremony. But surprise, surprise, it is our heroine Agnieszka who is taken in her place to serve the Dragon. First of all, I have to commend this story on its originality. I think you're going to hear a lot of reviewers say this book is inspired by this fairy tale, or it's a retelling of this, but I don't think that's true at all. I think the fact of the matter is that this story has its roots, pun intended, in a lot of traditional folklore and fairy tales, and it really pulls from those traditional elements. So there's a feeling of familiarity in this story when you go into it, but it's totally and completely original within its own right. For example, one of the common tropes that you see a lot in fantasy or fairy tale stories that this story takes and twists in a new and refreshing way is the stolen maiden trope, or the maiden in the tower trope. When you hear that a female character is going to be held captive by a powerful and sinister wizard, or really just any dangerous man in general, you have an expectation for how that's going to play out. And this story takes those expectations, throws them out the window, and goes in a completely different direction. It really just surprises you at every single turn, and that's something that I really, really appreciate. And not only does this story push boundaries and constantly reimagine common fantasy or fairy tale tropes and put a fresh new spin on them, but the characters are everything you could have ever wanted from them and more. Let's talk about the main character, Agnieszka. My freaking jam, my homegirl. I will sing her praises forever. She is amazing. Agnieszka is a wonderful character because she completely defies the strong female character trope that we see again and again in fantasy. She does not fit that mold at all. She has a very healthy sense of fear. She's unsure of herself. She worries to a fault. She wants to protect as many people around her as humanly possible at all times, but at the same time, she can keep her wits about her. She has a very even head, and she can make smart decisions that are not only in the best interest of her own safety, but the safety of those around her. And she is just incredible. Most importantly, not only is she wary of the Dragon and does she fear him, but she will not allow him to mistreat her. When he's being needlessly cruel or rude, or when he implies that she is only there to submit to his whims or to please him, she will shut it down. She will not accept it, she will not obey him, and she will point it out. And as their relationship progresses and changes, as she spends more time in the tower and learns more about what he does and that he's different from how he seems on the surface, she still does not make excuses for him. She does not excuse his behavior or his attitude when he's not in a good mood, and that makes all the difference. And while I'm talking about Agnieszka and the Dragon, I have to mention their relationship because there is a true intimacy between these two characters, and I don't mean intimacy in the romantic sense, though there are some hints at that as the story progresses. I really and truly believe that the core of the connection between these characters is just beyond words. They really do understand one another as humans and as creatures, and it's just so rewarding to see that relationship and that dynamic form and change and develop as the story goes on. That was an incredible experience, and I really loved both of them, and I loved them together. You really get the sense with both of these characters that when they're thrown together for the first time, it's like they have to start over from scratch. It's like they have to relearn how to understand one another, and they have to learn just the most basic of things about one another. But when they have a connection, and when they make that relationship, and when they have something in common, it just totally changes everything, and that relationship gets so more complex as the story goes on. I really admired it. I'm not going to go through the entire cast of characters, but they're all incredible. They all have such depth and wonderful backstories. I think they're all fully explored and fully realized people, and I loved reading about them. And the last major point that I wanted to touch on was the magic system, because it's kind of perplexing because you don't know exactly how it works, but that's also the beauty of it, and it feels so real and raw, and you can't help but totally and completely believe in it, even if you don't fully understand the mechanics of it. I think this is definitely a case where less is more. This magic system is very minimalist. I think you see a lot of fantasy novels that have very intricate magic systems. Maybe they even have classifications of certain people who can do certain things, and you know the parameters of the magic system, you know its limitations and what it can do, what it can't do. But in this story, it's more like the world itself is just steeped in magic, and those who can use it are merely channels for that energy, and it's very raw, but more importantly, it's written so beautifully. In regards to the magic in this book, Naomi Novik's writing style is just gorgeous. She employs a lot of natural imagery, and she also engages so many of the senses. So when anyone is using magic in this book, it feels like a real, natural, rich experience, and it's wonderful to read. Honestly, I've been talking for a while now, and I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface for how many amazing things there are in this book. There are so many wonderful things to take away from this story and to discuss, but I can't even do a fraction of it justice. That's how amazing it is. I really don't want to say much else because I don't want to get too far into the story, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone. I want you all to go out and have your own experience with this book because it is so incredibly worthwhile. Trust me on that. So I'm going to stop myself there and just say that I gave Uprooted a huge 5 out of 5 stars. So that's what I had to say about Uprooted by Naomi Novik. In the comments down below, please let me know if you have also read this incredible book, because there is so much that we can discuss. But also let me know if you haven't read this book and you plan to do so in the future, because if so, you are making some great life decisions, my friend. But that is everything I had for this review video today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page. Bye.